This family vacation is crazy. They bathed in raw sewage naked, were robbed of everything, nearly died rafting, their car exploded in the desert, and they spent almost a whole day upside down on a roller coaster. And somehow, that still doesn't fully explain how bad this trip gets. That's the promise here. It wasn't just a road trip from hell. It's a family being dragged through every possible form of humiliation until, against all logic, they bond through the trauma. The dad, Rusty, is a low-budget airline pilot who is overly cheerful, painfully optimistic, and completely unaware that everyone around him is miserable. His wife Debbie is bored with their uneventful and predictable life. His older son James is awkward and anxious, and his younger son Kevin is a mean bully. He bullies James nonstop and walks around with the confidence of a tiny crime boss. Every summer, Rusty takes the family to the same boring cabin in Michigan. He thinks it's a beloved tradition. The problem becomes impossible to ignore when Rusty and Debbie have dinner with another couple who've just returned from Paris. They've got romantic stories, beautiful photos, and the kind of energy Rusty and Debbie haven't had in years. Rusty realizes his family isn't bonding. They're just sharing a house and waiting for dinner and death. Rusty finds pictures that make him get a crazy idea. He finds old photos from the childhood road trip to Walley World. Rusty remembers the feeling of it, the excitement, the adventure, the idea that the whole family was in one car, heading somewhere together. So he decides to recreate it. He genuinely believes that one great vacation can fix all their family problems. He announces they're skipping Michigan and driving to Walley World. Debbie is unsure. The boys hate the idea. Then he brings home their weird-looking rental car. It has 2 fuel tanks, confusing buttons, and strange symbols. Even the salesman can't explain how it works. Rusty loves it immediately. The trip begins, and within minutes, Rusty is trying to start a sing-along, while everyone else quietly regrets being related to him. James starts exchanging smiles with a girl named Adina riding in another car. For James, this is basically a full relationship. He hasn't spoken to her, but emotionally, he's already picking out curtains. Kevin notices too, so James's happy moment lasts about 4 seconds. James spends most of the trip being humiliated. But later, when he finally snaps, Kevin learns that fear can change addresses very quickly. Their first major stop is Memphis, where Debbie went to college. Rusty expects a sweet tour of her younger years. Instead, the family discovers that Debbie is a legend in her old sorority, known as Debbie Do Anything. The chill mother apparently had a past full of drinking, stunts, and terrible decisions, and Debbie is desperate to prove she still has it. After enough alcohol, she attempts an old obstacle course in front of everyone. For a few seconds, it almost looks impressive. Then her body remembers she hasn't done this in 20 years. She crashes through the course and ends the performance by vomiting her guts out in front of the crowd. Rusty watches with the stunned expression, discovering his wife was super ratchet before she met him. You'd think this would be the most embarrassing stop on the trip. It isn't even close. At a motel later that night, James runs into Adina again. This time, they actually talk. The conversation is going well. For once, the trip seems to be having a win. Then Rusty arrives. He tries to be a wingman and instead ends up giving off very shady vibes. Adina leaves. James wants to disappear. Rusty walks away believing he nailed it. Meanwhile, a massive truck has started following the family. The driver keeps appearing behind them, honking and trying to get their attention. Rusty assumes the man is dangerous, so now every mile comes with the possibility that they're being hunted. Keep that truck in mind. The family gets the entire situation wrong, and the truth only comes out after they've lost almost everything. Before that happens, they make one of the worst decisions of the journey. A weird stranger tells them about a hidden hot spring. The family follows his directions and finds a warm pool surrounded by trees and mud. It feels private, peaceful, almost magical. Everyone climbs in, covers themselves in the soft mud, and finally looks happy. Then they notice things floating around them. Trash, syringes, human waste. This isn't a hot spring, it's a raw sewage dump, and the mud they've been rubbing on their faces has a history nobody wants explained. They scramble out and race back to the car, only to discover that somebody has broken into it. Their luggage is gone. Their money is gone. Their clothes are gone. Even Debbie's wedding ring is missing. The family is filthy, almost naked, and stranded with almost nothing. Rusty still refuses to quit. With nowhere else to go, they drive to Texas to visit Rusty's sister Audrey and her husband Stone. Their house is enormous. Their ranch is beautiful, and Stone looks like a very impressive man. He's rich, confident, ridiculously muscular, and completely relaxed around Debbie. He barely has to speak. He just walks into a room wearing very little clothing, and Rusty's self-esteem begins packing its bags. That tension follows them to the Four Corners Monument, where they sneak away for a romantic moment. They're interrupted by 4 police officers, each representing a different state. Instead of immediately arresting them, the officers begin arguing over whose jurisdiction they're standing in. Rusty and Debbie quietly escape. Back at the motel, James sees Adina again. She tells him he needs to stop letting Kevin control him. James finally fights back. And Kevin, who has spent the trip operating like an untouchable dictator, discovers that his older brother has hands. Then they reach the Grand Canyon. Their rafting guide, Chad, has just been dumped by his fiancée. He's devastated, and clearly in no condition to guide anyone through dangerous water. He takes them anyway, and steering the raft toward violent rapids with the energy of a man who no longer sees survival as a priority. This is where the vacation stops being embarrassing and becomes genuinely dangerous. The family is thrown through the water, fighting to stay alive while their guide turns a scenic tour into a group suicide attempt. They somehow make it out, then the car runs out of fuel in the desert. Rusty reaches for the key fob, presses the wrong button, and the van explodes. Rusty finally cracks. The car is burning, the vacation is dead, and the family is more apart than ever. That's when the terrifying truck driver appears. The family braces for the worst, but the man was never hunting them. He's been trying to return Debbie's wedding ring, which he found after they were robbed. The person they feared most is the first stranger on this trip who actually helps them. He gives them a ride to San Francisco, where Rusty's parents, Clark and Ellen, run a bed and breakfast. Rusty is ready to surrender and fly everyone home, but Clark reminds him why these trips matter. The good moments are great, but the disasters are the stories families keep telling. So Rusty borrows the old Wagon Queen family truckster and makes one final run at Walley World. They survive the drive, they reach the park, then they spend the entire day standing in line for the Velociraptor roller coaster. Right as they reach the front, the park closes. Worse, Rusty's smug rival Ethan arrives with his family and cuts in front of them. Something inside Rusty finally breaks. The two families erupt into a full fight, and for the first time on the trip, the Griswolds work perfectly together. They beat Ethan's family, reclaim their place, and finally board the ride. Rusty has done it. He got them to Walley World. The family is closer. The nightmare has paid off. Then the roller coaster stops while they're hanging upside down. They remain trapped for hours. And somehow, that ending is perfect, because this trip was never going to give Rusty the clean victory he imagined. It gives him something messier. James finds confidence, Kevin learns some respect, Debbie and Rusty finally admit their marriage needs work, and the family comes out of the disaster actually feeling like a family again. Later, Rusty plans a romantic trip to Paris for himself and Debbie. This time, no car, no road trip, no sewage. He proudly tells her he used his airline connections to get them seats. Those seats are cramped crew jump seats beside the bathroom, and the flight lasts 12 hours. Debbie looks at him, Rusty smiles, and just like that, another perfect Griswold vacation begins.